Around 1 year ago, I set out to create a tank battler, and it was going to be based on this minigame from Wii Play called Tanks. Somehow though, my game didn't end up playing like a tank battler, and instead it ended up playing like a puzzle game. As you can expect, that was not my plan. So if my goal was a faithful recreation of Wii Tanks, a game all about strategizing and reacting to smart AI, how did my strategy tank battler end up like a puzzle game? Well, it really only comes down to one thing. Now before we start, we are going to need some important context, so bear with me. For those of you that have never played Wii Tanks, the game basically consists of 100 levels where you're a tank battling enemy tanks. The objective of each level is to take out all of the enemy tanks without dying. This meant that for my recreation of the game, I would need a couple things. First, I would need a tank the player can actually control. Secondly, I needed some AI enemy tanks the player could play against. And finally, for my game, I wanted to do about 50 levels. Now by the time I finished my game, the gameplay loop was basically the same as Wii Tanks. Since in my game, the goal of each level was to kill all of the enemy tanks. The thing is though, like I said before, Wii Tanks plays like a strategy game. Because in Wii Tanks, you have to look and see what the enemy tanks are doing. That way you can strategize on how you're going to beat the level. Instead though, my game didn't even play like a strategy game. Instead it played like a puzzle game. Now the reason for my game not playing like a strategy game really comes down to the fact that I was really inexperienced with making AI opponents. To make AI feel good in a game, there's a lot of things that go into them to make them feel complex and interesting. The AI in Wii Tanks is a great example, have a lot of different behaviors. For one, the enemy tanks will sometimes circle around the player instead of heading right at them. Another thing they like to do is to go around obstacles so that they can get a better shot on the player. These behaviors are what make the AI feel complex, interesting, and ultimately unpredictable. Specifically, it's that unpredictability that makes the game strategic. Because if they're not predictable and you don't know what their next move is, you have to think about what their next couple of moves could be. And then based on those circumstances, you have to strategize on what to do when those things happen. And that's how you beat them. My game, unfortunately, takes a much dumber approach to AI. Let me preface this with the fact that when I made this game, I didn't really know what I was doing, and I didn't really know how to make good AI. So to make my AI work and to make it fun, I basically set all of my tanks to chase the player directly. This meant no dodging, no smart behavior, they're all just laser focused on chasing the player. My AI tanks would also shoot based on a timer. So like in this clip, if the player's smart, they can just wait for that timer to run out and then the tank ends up shooting a wall. But my AI being dumb is what makes it predictable, which is the reason why my game ends up playing like a puzzle game. Because think about it, my AI determines where it goes based on the player's movement. Which means if the player moves in the same way every single time, they can force the enemy tanks to also move in the same way every time. Take this level as a great example. Here, if the player moves like this every single time, they can force the enemy tanks to funnel to this one place where the player wants them to be. Or like this level, where if you shoot at this one spot, you can take out all of the enemy tanks in only 2 or 3 shots. Or like in this level, where the player doesn't even have to get in range of the enemy tank. Now there's another big difference between my game and Wii Tanks. And that's the fact that if you die in my game, you go all the way back to level 1. Now because of that mechanic and the AI predictability, what I found is that players would oftentimes start to find solutions to each level. Which meant the players would get better and faster at each level. So now levels that had given them trouble before were super easy since they found solutions to them, which allowed them to progress faster through the game since they were beating levels they had never beaten before. Now these solutions that were created out of predictability and replayability were not something I intended for the game at all, since originally I wanted my game to be like Wii Tanks, where it was purely based on strategy. But players liked finding these solutions to each level, and since the AI predictability is what offered up the opportunity for solutions to each level, the AI predictability is really what made the game fun. There are still a lot of issues with the game though. The biggest issue is that one life is just simply not enough to reach level 50. Even if each level has a solution, players will eventually mess up, and so a perfect run in 50 levels is just pretty much impossible. I think the farthest anyone ever made it in the game was level 27, which just goes to show how hard the game actually is. Another thing was that in the original Wii Tanks, there were little bombs that the enemy tanks and player tanks could both drop, but at the time of making the game, I couldn't figure out how to really implement it, so I just decided to leave them out of the game. But enough about the bad stuff. The thing I really love about this entire situation is that my lack of ability to create a really good AI didn't hinder me from making a really fun game. I mean, I for one still find the game to be really fun, and I'll even catch myself going back and playing it every once in a while. But it goes to show that even if you don't know a ton about game development or programming, you can still end up making a game that's really fun. If an idiot like me can mistake his way into making a fun game, then I'm absolutely certain you can make a fun game too. I hope you enjoyed this video, I hope you have a great rest of your day, I'm out.